amazing. We usually get together every once in a while to see what's going on in each other's lives. Just recently, a couple months ago, I just got married, and Eric's been just full of advice to really help my marriage out and really keep God the center.
Matthew and I have a great friendship. He's a great guy. We get together and get to talk about what God's doing in our lives, what's going on at work, what's going on at home, just everything about life we share together. There's a bond, there's a camaraderie that's there that's, I think, just unique. The memories that we have, the things that we've shared have just been amazing. To be honest, I wish that our friendship would have started under different circumstances.
I work as a firefighter EMT. I was just finished getting off a 24-hour shift. We had an extremely busy shift. I really only got about 30 minutes of sleep. I drove home, and I didn't really feel the need that I needed to pull over. So about 2 miles from my house, I ended up falling asleep at the wheel and crossing the center line and hitting an oncoming car head on.
I had just woken up that morning and I heard a pounding on the front door. And so I went to see what was going on, and the senior pastor from my church where I serve, Jeff, was there. He had told me that my wife and my daughter had been in a car accident, that I need to get my keys, get my cell phone, get my wallet, and let's go. So I grabbed my stuff, we jumped in the truck, we went to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, the chaplain met us at the emergency room and kind of walked us to the counseling room. The doctor began to share kind of what had happened, that June had sustained severe head trauma and some broken bones, and the steering column had actually been crushed in towards her abdominal area. And due to the injuries that she sustained, that she had gone into cardiac arrest almost immediately. The EMTs did everything that they could on the way to the hospital to try to do aggressive CPR and keep her going. But when they got to the hospital, they pronounced her dead. My wife was also pregnant, almost 7 months pregnant with our son, and we lost him as well. Faith, who was 19 months old at the time, was also in the car, but amazingly, she came out of it with no injuries, just some mild abrasions and some bruises. Hearing the news, just trying to process it. Not only did I lose my wife and my best friend, but I also lost a son. And I went outside to call my mom and tell her what had happened. And it's the most difficult phone call I've ever had to make. So here I was, I just had the worst day of my life. And I opened my Bible and I was just like, okay, God, what do you have? I just lost my wife, I lost my son. And I remember a sermon that I'd heard years ago just came back to my mind, and it was talking about how that there's a bigger picture going on, and that we have a tendency to look at our lives as little 3x5 snapshots, and we tend to get focused on whether our 3x5 is okay or not, and we lose sight of the fact that God is doing bigger things. His story is bigger than just ours, that He paints on the canvas the size of the universe. It was a turning point. I think it saved my life, because if I was left to my own devices, my own ability to figure things out, I probably would have just crawled into my bed and just hid.
Initially, I went through every emotion possible. It was really hard for me to come to grasp of how this could have happened to me and why this happened to me. I was a good kid. I was raised in a Christian home, and how this could happen to Eric and his family. Him being a youth pastor and really living his life for the Lord. For the first couple weeks afterwards, it really broke me down to the lowest of the low. And one night I threw my hands up in the air and I just gave up. And I said, God, I need your help. And I'm really trusting you and putting all my faith in you, that you had a reason for this and that you do have a plan. And it was that moment when it was like He placed His hand on my shoulder and wrapped me in a blanket of comfort. Initially, it was tough not being able to talk to Eric because of legal issues. All I wanted to do was to make sure that he was okay and express my emotion and sorrow to him, and I couldn't. All everybody could tell me is that Eric was praying for me and wishing comfort upon me, And I really couldn't understand that, but I knew that that was God working through him.
So I got a call from the Solicitor General, and she was wanting to know how I wanted to pursue the case against Matthew. I could push for the maximum penalty, which possibly would have meant jail time, but would have definitely eliminated any hope of him being a firefighter in the future, or I could opt for a lesser charge. And I remember thinking that this would be a wonderful opportunity for God to get glory and for Christ to be lifted up. It's not going to bring June back, and I'm certain he struggles every day, just having to think through what happened. So I just decided to opt for the lesser charge as an opportunity again to demonstrate God's forgiveness and God's love.
The day before the 2-year anniversary of the accident, I still had not spoken to Eric. I stopped at Publix to get him a card to just let him know that I was thinking about him and praying for him and his family. As I got out of my truck to walk into the store, I saw Eric walking towards me.
There were just tears streaming down his face. I just walked up to him and I gave him a hug, and we embraced for a short time. And then I began to share with him kind of what God had taught me these past 2 years, and about the big perspective that that God had given me. He began to share what was on his heart, and it was just, there was a connection. There was a bond that was immediately developed. And we talked for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it was just a beautiful time where we shared just experiencing God's grace, God's healing, the power of forgiveness, restoration. I communicated to him a desire that I had to stay involved in his life, to invest in a relationship with him from this point forward, and he immediately echoed the same sentiment to me, that was something he had desired as well. And we wanted to just stay in touch and continue to grow in our relationship with each other as we continue to grow with God. And it was just, to me, amazing how God orchestrated all of this together. I mean, we happened to be at the same place on the same day to talk for the first time, and I remember thinking, had we not met and had this conversation, we wouldn't be where we are today. In fact, it was an opportunity that God used to not only heal and bless us, but we feel like it's going to be one that he uses to heal and bless others as well.
All I remember is Eric telling me that he wasn't mad at me and that he didn't blame me. And all I could tell him is how sorry I was. God has taught me through Eric the power of forgiveness, healing through forgiveness, and his faithfulness. Me and Eric now share a bond that is unbreakable. And through Eric's friendship, my life has forever changed.
Now, don't think this is a rainbows and butterflies kind of story. It's been a rough road. It's been a lot of lonely nights, tremendous pain, thoughts of uncertainty and frustration. There's not a day that goes by that I don't wish June was still here. But through it all, God has been with me. I never would have wanted to endure what I went through, and I never want to feel that way again. But I am who I am today because of what God has done in me through these circumstances. And for that, I'm thankful. One thing I've learned from this whole experience is that God is faithful. And that when our little bit of faith would intersect with his faithfulness, God shows up big and does some amazing things in us and through us.